proposal.
Right.
They were just overruled by all the rest of the powers that be. So,
So there was nothing they could do, even though they were president.
Well, he blabbed to the universe.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I really come from a standpoint of healing and all of that. I'm not making this movie to point fingers or to say you should have done this or you should have done that. It's already done. All we have to do is now embrace it, love what happened, and love in the sense of unconditional love, and say we can make this world a better place by each and every one of us doing our thing to help humanity, and and then that's how it's all going to heal. It's not, nothing is about putting the blame, but when you really think about, God, the decisions that man had to make,
Yeah, he did the best he could, given the circumstances he was operating in.
That's right. He was a great president, a really great president. So,
does anybody have insights as to where Valiant Thor is now? Is he interacting with any?
Yeah, he's in. The Victor 1 is stationed at Lake Mead. All of the rest of I think there's 103 Victor class saucers. They're stationed in, around, and above the Earth. And then there is a starship, they actually call it. I don't use the starship in the short film because I wanted to save it for the big film. So I just created this unbelievable mothership. Oh, wait till you see it. Oh, my God. It's so beautiful. But the starship is 14 miles long and 7 miles wide. And, I think what's hard for a lot of people here to comprehend is that they live on all the planets are populated on the interior of the planet. They all have the universal code, the source code. So they can create create a floor, and they can use that code even on a ship. And you walk in, I guess the closest thing I can say is you're walking onto a holodeck on Star Trek, but you're actually walking into a real environment, and there could be rivers and lakes and streams. They don't have problems with something looking infinite. And the same with the skies. They're called synchrotron skies. All of this is in the Tehran books, by the way. This is all the stuff from the master teachers there. But the synchrotron skies go from day into night, and you can't tell. You look up and you can't tell that you're not outside, but you have to remember they also create the resonance fields around them. That's why they live to be really, really old, and they stop aging in their 30s. That's why they are perfect beings. So they do not get sick. They do not get any of that. Zan, who is the doctor on board Victor 1, he's a doctor for Earth seeds, Earth star seeds. He's not a doctor for them, So it's it's really quite amazing that Dr. Frank and had gone into his medical offices many times, where they scan his body and tell him everything that's going on and what to do, and all those things. So it's really quite spectacular when you think about it, and to bring the visuals for people to actually see. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but I've been living in this world, having access to, these incredible teachers who bring me these incredible images of things. And, sometimes they'll just show me an image, or they'll relay it through feelings and expression, and then I'll get the image later, But but I always will get the feeling body of whoever it is. They actually share that with me, you know, where they sort of allow a blanket of who they are to permeate in my soul, and I get to feel them at an extreme depth. As a matter of fact, I have tried to explain this to so many people, and I had a camera crew of 3. They came with 5 cameras. They had 2 hosts, and they came here to my house to film me several months ago and to talk about Stranger at the Pentagon. And I knew it wasn't going to go as planned. That's all I knew. And once we started the interview, I saw this incredible beam of pink light come down over the whole place. I could see it. And I started going in and talking about what I was just talking about, the feeling body and the unconditional love and all of that. All of a sudden, the female host broke down and started sobbing. The male host was trying to hold it together, and he couldn't, and then he stopped and started sobbing. I turned and looked at one of the crew ladies. She was sobbing, and I said, see, you guys get to experience it today. You are the lucky ones. And so the thing is they couldn't use anything from the interview because the sound kept going in and out and all of that, and they had top equipment. And I said, look, it wasn't meant to be. All you were supposed to do was get that experience today, and we'll shoot the show another day.
Wow.
You know, so that was really exciting that, you know, other people actually got to experience it and broke down at their emotional core, because it was the unconditional love was so beautiful that they couldn't contain it, you know.
Uh-huh.
So,
wow. Well,
yeah.
I was just wondering, you know, I followed the story, you know, to a certain point. I'm not sure where you're going with it or where the movie's going to go with it. And I just wondered if there, and I've heard stories of people that have said that they have met and seen Valiant Thor since the 50s, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Frank Stranges was in contact with Valiant Thor until his death, right? That's correct? He was in contact.
That's correct. Uh-huh.
So what's going on? Is anybody now, like a contactee, talking to Valiant Thor, or is he just...
No. I mean, there are people that he's in contact with, but these aren't people, you know, and this is from what Dr. Frank told me, you know, that there are many people that he's in contact with, but they're not on the public stage like Dr. Frank was, bringing the story forth. You know, Dr. Frank was sort of a grassroots thing that I believe Valiant Thor used when they turned his proposal down. Dr. Frank used to speak about UFOs in the Bible. He happened to be in Washington, D.C. at that time in December of 1959, and he sent a secretary with a high-level clearance who he had befriended there. In the book, they call her Nancy Warren, to go get Dr. Frank, and he brought Dr. Frank to him. She brought Dr. Frank to him at the Pentagon, and they met and spoke for, I think, about an hour. And, you know, the story is just, you know, it's fascinating from there. And so Dr. Frank wrote a little book called My Friend from Beyond Earth. And then when Valiant Thor left Earth on March 16th, 1960, he returned exactly 1 year later, and he contacted Dr. Frank, and Dr. Frank ended up writing Stranger at the Pentagon and publishing it first in 1967. So it was kind of, I think, a grassroots thing, and he traveled the world talking about the story. He filled stadiums in Korea. He was on podiums with Werner von Braun and all of the top people, you know, of that day in Germany. And crew members, specifically Don and Thon, Thonn, they traveled with him everywhere, you know. When he was doing it, once in a great while, Valiant Thor was seen. Once in a great while, Yanaya was seen, and once in a great while, Teal would make an appearance. You know, but a lot of people didn't, they would, Yanaya you can't miss. He's 7 feet tall, he's muscular, and he has a bald head. So,
Wow.
You would definitely notice him if you walked into a room. So,
Has anybody else come forth that may have seen?
There's a few ladies that have come forth who met him when he was here in the 50s. They were teenagers then. They've come forth, talking about that. I've noticed online a few people said that they've seen him. They just saw him. Dr. Frank said that a lot of times he would do that. They can be in several places at once. They can, they can make themselves here, there, that kind of thing. That's not hard for them to do. But he would sometimes, you could be driving and he would be standing on a corner and you would look, and it was just that momentary thing of looking and seeing him that would awaken something in the person. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people may have had that experience. I haven't met him. I've had dreams with him where, he was talking to me, but, I haven't met any of them in the physical. But I've had, my own experiences, and, but I'm sure that there are many, many people all over the world that have. They just don't, once they open up that door, they don't want to get ridiculed, or if they're in high positions of power or things like that. So, and who knows, who else he's contacted in governments throughout the world, especially with the situation going on, A lot of people write on Facebook and stuff, well, if he's here, why isn't he doing something about it? Well, it's not his job to do something about it. It's his job to maybe help and advise, it's this planet's free will and the being's free will to do what they want. And it's the lesson.
So what do you imagine he would advise?
Yeah, with the situation now, how could he help us? How could he advise? What can he do?
Well, I think, what if he were contacting, government officials in all the places that were happening? Or what if there were starseeds who were a part of these groups that were in there maybe trying to do better? I mean, I don't really know. I'm just throwing out ideas and, things. Because, here, the thing that I've tried to do from day one in writing this is, if I was a created being, if I was of angelic consciousness, how would I think and what would my brain processing be?
Yes.
And I know the one thing that they have shared with me is that they feel things on a heightened level way beyond what we even can feel in our feeling bodies, even the pain, even all of that, and that they have access to all of the horrific things that are happening on the planet, and they see them on a daily basis. That's another reason for the resonation fields, is that it keeps them their equilibrium and their emotional bodies equalized. Because if you can imagine, if we were on a craft and we were constantly seeing these images, we would we would just want to curl up in a ball and die.
Well, we have our skin. Yeah. We have our skin encapsulated self-sense, which is like a barrier emotionally. That's why we don't feel people as much as when you're outside in this other accelerated form. You lack the shield of skin, so it's more permeable, so they feel everything.
Well, it's just that when I look at my computers and what's happening in the world, I feel like I feel the pain of the world, and I feel the joy of the world too. And I'm just an ordinary guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So you take that and multiply it by a gazillion, you know, and, interestingly enough, in thinking that and how dedicated they all are to seeing the planet shift over. The main thing is the planet is moving everyone from duality into unity, into universal harmonics, meaning having the heart rule the mind.